All the details on Autopilot 2.0 may be a contradiction of those details, a conclusion to the French test drive fire investigation, and some comedy to begin the week from Drag Times. Here are your Tesla tidbits for September 12, 2016. Elon's long-promised Autopilot 2.0 post was revealed to the world yesterday. The details are courtesy of the Tesla blog. The surprising major news is that Elon's earlier tweets about a coarse point cloud using radar without visual confirmation are here and ready for use, not just theory. The blog post details the positives and negatives of this solution. On the plus side, radar has no issue with rain, snow, fog, or dust, and anything metallic reflects back like a mirror. On the downside, people appear partially translucent in the eyes of radar, and wood and painted plastic are, quote, almost as transparent as glass to radar, end quote. In addition, any metal surface with a disc shape can actually magnify its appearance to radar. The unfortunate and very probable example given by the blog post is that of an aluminum can bottom. The can would appear to be a large and dangerous obstacle, but it's something you definitely would not want to slam the brakes on for. The biggest obstacle to implementing this sea change, therefore, is preventing false positive emergency braking events. So the first solution to this was yet another thing alluded to by an Elon tweet, and that is that existing hardware is far more capable than was being used. Version 8.0 of the software unleashes this capability, giving the existing radar 6 times the radar object's return and much more information on each object. The second part of the solution involves using that new data. The radar snapshots are captured every 100 milliseconds and analyzed for speed and path to tell if something is real and compute the likelihood of collision. Lastly is the very problem that caused the Florida death while Autopilot was in use. There is still the issue of road signs and bridges which will still potentially appear to be objects in the road if the vehicle is traveling uphill. GPS and nav data aren't enough to make up for the deficiency of the radar solution. This, however, is where Tesla fleet learning comes into play in a very tangible way. When 8.0 first rolls out, the cars will still behave as they have, but will begin to observe road signs, bridges, and other stationary objects while not acting on them. The car will note when the driver brakes, when it would have braked, and send that information to the cloud. If the same information is sent consistently to the cloud, whether Autopilot is engaged or not, this will trigger a whitelist event for that location. Tesla says that once data begins to show that false braking events would be rare, mild braking will begin to occur using radar whether the camera confirms the information or not. As the system becomes more confident that action needs to be taken, more force will be applied to the brakes, gradually increasing to full strength if the car is 99.99% certain that a collision is imminent. The final result is that with all the new improvements in play, Tesla believes that, quote, the car should almost always hit the brakes correctly, even if a UFO were to land on the freeway in zero visibility conditions, end quote. Further, the car will be capable of a bit of radar ricochet, bouncing the signal beneath cars in front of it. This, according to the posting, would allow the car to, quote, still brake even when trailing a car that is opaque to both vision and radar. The car in front might hit the UFO in the dense fog, but the Tesla will not, end quote. As if this wasn't enough out of one post, there's a short bullet list of other new features at the end of the post. Check out the post for the full list, but the most salient to me follow. The biggest is that after the fleet learns enough, the car will actually be able to engage auto steer automatically to avoid a collision if it believes the odds of the collision are nearly 100%. Another great new safety feature builds on the existing Autopilot behavior of disabling auto steer when no input has been detected from the driver. If the system determines that the driver is about to leave the road following an auto steer deactivation, an alert will be triggered to warn the driver. More in the safety department, during emergency braking by a user, automatic braking will now amplify the user's input. As Electrek already told us earlier, the car won't permit re-engagement of auto steer if it was automatically disabled, as well as the ability to lane change to an exit ramp. Finally, again on the safety front, all alerts are now more prominent, including a flashing white border on the instrument cluster. In a story that seems to contradict everything I just reported on, Electrek reports on a Model S with manufacturer plates spotted near the Palo Alto headquarters carrying some non-standard hardware. A tip was sent to them with a picture of a white Model S with copious amounts of tape securing 2 small pucks to the front and rear of the roof of the car. There is a possibility, due to the size of the hardware, that these may be LiDAR sensors, but they may also be a form of advanced GPS sensor as well. The reason for the latter theory is that the window for the laser that would be required for a LiDAR sensor is not visible. I'm leaning toward the latter myself, as many at Tesla would have to eat a tremendous dose of crow after some of the comments that have been made about the LiDAR technology. Of course, the third possibility is that all of this is wrong too. We've seen some interesting stuff in the wild, and I look forward to learning what this one is. Sticking with Electrek, the results of the French test drive fire are in, and the problem with it is a human being, according to Tesla. In a situation tailor-made for Tesla's argument about getting humans out of the assembly process, Tesla claims that an improperly tightened, bolted electrical connection is the issue, noting that a human completed this work rather than a robot. Charles Delavia, Tesla's French communication manager, said, quote, "Usually these electrical connections are installed by a robot, but for this car, this connection was installed manually. There has never been a similar incident in another one of our cars," end quote. Electrek notes that it is curious that this particular 90D was outside of the standard assembly process. They asked for more information, which they will update if and when they receive a response. Lastly, we go to the comedy department. Jalopnik reports that Brooks from Drag Times is at it again, this time with both of his kids. We've already seen him bet his son that he couldn't grab a $100 bill from the rearview mirror before he reached 60 miles per hour, and now we get a new challenge to both son and daughter. The kids seem to want to eat and drink in the car, which Brooks says he'll happily permit, if only they can take one sip of water during a launch without spilling a drop. Check out the link in the show description to see the hilarity that ensues. And that's not the only link that'll be there. Be sure to check out the rest of the links from today's stories as well. If you get some value out of the show, please consider supporting the show at patreon.com/Tesla Tidbits. Thanks as usual to my super patron John Waltauer for his support. If you have something to buy from Amazon, please consider using the Amazon link in the show description to access the site. It costs you nothing extra, and they'll kick a little something to the show for your trouble. Thanks to everyone for your continued support. We've crossed 50 subscribers on the YouTube channel, and if I can believe the feed burner, we're over 100 on the standard podcatcher services. I also very much want to thank the kind folks that submitted star and fully worded reviews on iTunes for the show. If you believe it warranted, please do continue the positive feedback and keep spreading the word. If you want to reach me personally, you can do that via email by messaging podcast@teslatidbits.com or on Twitter @TeslaTidbits. I do make my apology for the unscheduled missed show, as again I was caught away from home unexpectedly. I do want to let everyone know in advance this week that there will be no show on Friday, as my family and I will be out of the country on vacation, and our plans that night will bring us back to the hotel very late. Much as I did this week, and for the other show I missed, I'll catch that day's news up on the next show. Hopefully we'll have one of our slow days where it's no worry about the miss. That's all for today's supersized episode. I hope to see you back here tomorrow. Until then, keep it charged and hit the road.